that's the power brake right there, okay? That is a very effective brake. That's what many of the professionals do. It is a brake where you're throwing all of your body weight into the brake and you're kicking your leg in the air. You're kicking your back leg in the air. So if you watch that again, you'll see that as I'm shooting, I'm actually putting so much power into it that my leg comes up in the air like that. So all my weight's going in the ball. And this is something where you really develop that ability to have a good brake over time. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of repetition. So it's not something you're gonna be able to figure out right away. It's something that took me many years to get to a very good brake. And to be honest, with the leg being kicked in the air like that, which is a very good thing, that is what you're supposed to be doing in the power brake, it takes time in order to develop that. What you don't want to do is you don't want to start to learn a brake and try to learn the brake and try to kick your leg in the air, because it's something where the timing of it has to be absolutely perfect, and it's something that you will develop over time with practice. Okay, so when I first started learning how to brake, my leg didn't kick in the air and I just used to just hit it, and eventually my leg would kick a little bit higher until at this point now where it's going in the air like that, which is really good. If you watch some of the professionals, Thorsten Homan, Copigny, a lot of the traditional power breakers, you will see that that is how they do it. Things to keep in mind that I do when I'm doing this brake. I will have closed loop bridge. This is very important. So closed loop bridge, right? We talked about this in the bridging video. You're gonna make the peace sign or whatever this is. You're gonna touch it to your middle finger like this, and I'm gonna put the cue right in between there, okay? One other thing I like to do is I like to do what's called the V grip. So I'll turn my hand like this, and I'll make sure that my index finger and thumb are very elevated. I like it elevated like this. And I like to turn it a little bit sideways, so I minimize the amount of friction. So I turn it not this way, but a little bit sideways like that, okay? And the key thing here is that you wanna make sure your grip is very stable. So your right, if you're left-handed doing a brake, your right hand should be extremely stable. It should be glued to the table. It should really try to be stable, okay? And I always like to aim a little bit downward on the cue ball. And this is really important because the way that it works is that when you're aiming downward on the cue ball, you actually have a larger target on the ball that you're hitting. So you're actually able to hit a bigger part of the ball as you aim downward. And it also is important because you have zero chance of putting backspin on the ball. Or you have to really mess up. But if you put backspin on the ball, you'll see that the cue ball will hit the group and it'll spin back and it won't break them up very much. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to do a little bit of topspin, because a little bit of topspin is going to have the cue ball hit the group, jump up in the air, and then probably stop right about here. The topspin is going to cause it to like really come backwards and kind of stop right there. And that's ideally what you want to do, is you do want to have the cue ball travel as little as possible and really try to plant the cue ball in the middle of the table, especially in an 8-ball break, which is going to give you as much opportunities to make as many options as possible for the different groups that you can choose and different starting ball that you can hit. So that's one thing. Other thing you want to keep in mind when doing these break shots is you really want to focus on the follow through. The follow through should be huge. So as I'm following through, you saw in my first video, I come all the way through like this. My cue comes up in the air, my hand is like midway down the shaft. It's way up here. And I'm really throwing all my weight. I'm really just going into the ball. It's like that, just putting all my weight into it. And the follow through needs to be very long, needs to be very strong, very stable. You need to accelerate through the ball too. And as you're doing this, you need to make sure that the cue is going in a straight line. That is very important. Some professionals who don't have as good of a break, you'll see that they'll hit it and they'll kind of twist their arm like this. You don't want to be doing that. You're losing a lot of power. I've done experiments before where I've looked at doing that versus hitting it straight. And if you focus on hitting it straight, you're putting 100% of your power vector into the cue ball going in a straight line, and that's going to be really powerful break. Okay, so that is the 8-ball power break. I would like to show you the power break one or two more times from an angle so you can see what my body looks like as I'm doing the break. I like to put the cue ball a little bit off center, so I like to put a little bit to the right because I'm right eye dominant. I found that that's helped me quite a bit. Make sure you chalk a lot. That's very important. Chalking the cue, you get lots of chalk on all the outsides. I line it up. You want to have an American stance during this shot, so you want to have 1 foot forward, one foot back. You really cannot do a snooker stance. Closed bridge, see the line, come down. I always like to give a couple revs. Notice how I'm elevated on my hand. My bridge is elevated, so I'm aiming slightly downward on the cue ball. With a little bit of topspin. Looking, cue ball, staring at the cue ball, staring at the cue ball. Now I look up at the group, stare at the group, and I crush it. Okay, so that's the key. Is you want to make sure you're looking at the front ball in the rack is the last thing that you should be looking at. You should be glued on that. It's the same eye pattern that we talked about for all the rest of your shots. Okay, so now I'm going to actually do the shot, and you can watch. You'll see my left leg will go in the air. All my body's going to be going through. See how the cue ball jumped in the air and it planted right in the middle of the table. That's ideally what you want to be doing every single time. You're hitting it square with a little bit of topspin. The cue ball is going to jump in the air, going backwards. The topspin is going to cause it to stop in the middle of the table just like that. Okay, so that's what you want to be doing for the break. I'll show you guys one more time from a different angle so you can see it one more time. That's kind of the things you want to be doing. If you notice during the break, I like to have my chest a little bit elevated. So my chest is a little bit elevated, so when I go through, I can throw my whole chest into it. I can throw my whole chest and kick my leg in the air. If you're glued to it like this, you really can't get that much. If you're elevated like this, you can really get all of your weight into it, okay? So I'll show you guys one more replay of that. One other thing I forgot to mention, and hold on, let's get this wrapped up really quick. One more thing I forgot to mention is that you want, for me, it's personal preference, but I like to have my elbow at the regular position you would do for a regular shot. So my forearm is perpendicular going straight up and down. Some professionals, including some researchers like Dr. Dave, recommend that you have your arm slightly acute angle. So they would actually recommend sometimes your arm is a little bit in front. So when you make contact, you're actually putting more that into it. I found that doesn't help me because I can't get a good follow through. And I've watched a lot of professionals, and a lot of professionals just hold it the regular position. So I hold it the regular position too. So you might want to experiment with that, whether you're holding such that it's at a right angle or you're at an acute angle like this. Okay, so I do this. Some pros go like this. Most pros, I think, go from the middle just like that, just like what I do. Okay, but you kind of have to experiment on that on your own. Definitely do not hold it at an obtuse angle. You don't want to be holding it back here like this. So when you make contact, the point of contact, you're not getting as much force into it unless as if you were to go like this. So I'll do last time. Like I said, I line the object ball up slightly off center. Come down. Okay, just made 3 balls in the break there. So that's the break shot. Like I said, it's a shot where you really have to practice it in order to get good at it. Because it really is a skill shot. It really is tricky. And honestly, practice is what's going to get it. And to be honest, don't worry about kicking your leg in the air yet. That's something that's going to come with time. Anyways, this is the Billiards Doctor. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos.